The Miami Dolphins are searching for a third quarterback, another backup. We will talk about that today. Are they going to bring Mike White back? What are their options out there? We will discuss that. OBJ's status for opening day remains a mystery, and we will dive into that because I think he's going to be back. Plus, with The Athletic, they dropped their latest article. They do it every offseason, tiering all the quarterbacks in the NFL. We'll talk about where Tua lands and all of that. Plus, we'll have highlights from Mike McDaniel's press conference today, as well as Tua's press conference today, as Tua didn't exactly give a ringing endorsement to the offensive line. So smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Let's get into this.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Field down the near side, man open. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. It's going to open a touchdown again.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We are back here for another one. I appreciate all you for coming through on this Monday. We got a lot to talk about. And hey, just a reminder, I'll be live back with the boys for the finish line on Wednesday. It's been a while since we've had Richmond and ball game up. We'll be back at it on Wednesday. Me and Neil will be back at it as well. On Thursday for Fin Too Deep. There will be no show Friday because I got something going on, but I'm planning on dropping a nice show for you guys this weekend. A little bit of a film study coming for y'all this weekend. All right. There's a few things to talk about. Number one, if you didn't see it, breaking news just across the wire. The Titans have already traded Malik Willis. Malik Willis was just traded for a 2025 7th round pick to the Green Bay Packers. So there goes that whole experiment. Locked in on Will Levis, are they? Also today, if you did not see it, CeeDee Lamb got his new deal done with the Dallas Cowboys. And it's a lot of money. All right, it's a lot of money. 4-year extension worth $136 million. 100 of that is guaranteed, and a $38 million signing bonus, the largest ever for a wide receiver. So he's at $34 million per year, basically, and he's just behind Justin Jefferson. And I would agree with that. I've said that all along, that I don't think anyone should be paid more than Justin Jefferson. So, listen, they got CeeDee at 34, $1 million short. You know Jamar Chase, you know Brandon Ayuk are watching that, and they're just saying, oh, baby, oh, baby. Would I trade for Joe Milton? No, I would not. No, I would not. Because I think, first of all, they just drafted him. So, and he's flashed a little bit. So, that probably ain't going to come cheap. But I personally wouldn't trade for Joe Milton because it's going to be a little bit more expensive. All right. We'll get into this. I'll show everything for you. Shout out to everyone in the chat. All right. Y'all already rolling through this. Well over 200 of you already in the chat. So shout out to each and every one of you. Just because I keep getting hit up about it. Listen, I'm going to put a post. I'll put it tonight. I'll put it for channel members only. And I'll put it on the Patreon. If y'all are down to do a free league this year, I'm down. I'm in. But I'm not doing a paid league this year. I've already explained the reasons why. Maybe we bring that back next year. But if you guys want to do a free league for bragging rights this year, I'm down. All right. So I will keep each and every one of you posted. Channel members, I'll do a post on the community tab for you. And for all of you Patreons, I'll do a post on the Patreon for all of you. All right. So laid back, chill league. You know what I mean? So I'll keep you guys posted. I'll do a post tonight for you guys, all right? And then everyone, all I need is 11 in each league, and you're good. 11 members, 11 Patreons, and we're good to go. That's 2 leagues. I've already got the league set up. So, hey, if you suck at fantasy football, and it's free this year, so there you go. Shout out to Jamie coming through from San Jose. Appreciate you. Shout out to everyone in the chat, all right? Let's do a quick shout out to all of you guys. Pro Special, Robert Thomason, Omar Brown, Russell Swan, Dolphin Dawn, B-Rob, Timothy Washington, Aladino Mass, Mega O'Dunn, who else we got here? Dana Boyce, Boyce? I don't know, Boyce. My teams keep letting me down. John Featherland, the homie Fox. Hope I didn't butcher your last name, by the way, Dana. Chef Jew. Who else we got? Joseph Latham. Finn's Rule. Brad Martin. What's going on, Brad? Nice to see you popping back up regularly again. You know the season's coming. Shout out to all of you in the chat right now. You guys are just loading up. Kurok, Ron, Scorpion King, DF. What's going on? All right, how you doing? BX, how are you? Josh Hart, Tony Rizzi, Elpad. How you doing? 99, New Attitude. Darth Logan, what's going on? Russell, what's up, brother? There's 2 Russells. What's the Swan and just normal Russell? What's up, normal Russell? That's what I was just shouting out. Jason Stamps, Jason Keck. Jay Ratner. What's going on? Lemony Crawdad, Gray Bush, Fred Rivera. What's going on? Polly King, Lights Out, Coke Master D, Real Special K, Chris Figueroa, JJ Tucker, Nick Queck, Justin Moss. Shout out to Jess. How are you doing, Jess? Reginald, DDSCLA, Stavros. Who else we got going on here? I'm seeing a lot of the same names. Samuel Rosa. It's good. Scott Norman, 83. Seth. Anthony Mancini. You did butcher it, but it's not your fault. Okay, Dana Bice. There you go. Dana Bice. Bizarro. That's funny. Eric Storm, Vince Fan 22, John Fiorino, Mickle McCain. I'm gonna say that's Mickle, not Michael, because that's a different way of spelling that if it is. Samasoni, what's going on? Alu, how are you doing? Wayne D, and I believe I'm caught up. If I missed you, just know that I love you. Solo Dolo. What's going on? All right. He knows what time it is. I always rock it Solo Dolo. Smash that like button if you're new here. Chuck Fins Up. What's good, man? Nick, what's good? All right. Before we get into everything, because we do got a lot to go over. All right. Just so you know, this episode is sponsored by BetUS. It's powered by BetUS, baby. You go over to betus.com. Remember, they are going to match. All right. They're going to match your deposits up to $2,000 by 125%. And you can already go ahead and you can already start betting and placing your bets on the money line and the point spreads for week 1 games. All right. You want to open it up on the Friday with the Packers and the Eagles, knock yourself out. But right now, the Dolphins are favored by about 3.5. You get the favorite on the money line as well. And you can even go with point. How many points do you think are going to be scored? All right. Over or under 49 points. They are expecting this offense to put up some serious numbers. So, I mean, make sure you go over to BetUS. They sponsor the channel. They've got some of the quickest payouts in the industry. They've got a website that's so easy to navigate. Let's say I want to take Miami on the point spread. Look at on the right-hand side. You see my bet slips start to fill up, right? So, and then all you got to do is click place your bets, how much money you want to risk. So, let's say I want to put 100 down on them. I win $90, right? I win $90. You know what I mean? If that goes down to the Dolphins by 3.5. So, you already know what time it is. I will do some bets as we get closer to the season. But right now, BetUS, they sponsor the channel. Shout out to BetUS for helping me out. The description down below has a direct link to BetUS. Go click it. Go support the channel. Go support the sponsors. And remember, gamble responsibly. All right? So shout out to all of you, over 315 of you in the room right now. Thank y'all for coming through. We got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to go over here. And let's start off with what happened yesterday. All right. So yesterday, Jody, Fortson, and Mike White were released, to no one's surprise. If you paid attention to my depth chart episode, I didn't have neither one of these guys making the team. So this is absolutely zero surprise to anyone. Mike White released, Jody Fortson released. You know, they were the first two names. They made it known that they're the first two names out there. Now, this kind of now plays into what I want to talk about before we start getting into everything here today. What are the Miami Dolphins' needs now as cut down day looms? All right. I think they need a guard. I think they could use a backup center, unless they're going to go all in on like an Andrew Meyer or the Jack Driscoll transition. They clearly need a third quarterback, which we're going to get into heavy today here. I think they need some wide receiver depth because this wide receiver corps is just so banged up right now. I think they could also use a defensive end that can play inside out, more of a 3-down guy than what Kamara and Chop are for you, right? And they could use a veteran inside linebacker. I mean, they could. Will they? I don't think so, but they could use. Remember, I mean, names are starting to already drop right now. I mean, you know, we need wide receiver depth, right? Okay, I think we can all agree with this right now because of how everyone's so banged up and injured right now, right? Well, the word on the street is the Denver Broncos are looking to get rid of Tim Patrick. Donovan Peoples-Jones is out there. You know, we brought in Russell Gage for a visit earlier in the offseason. He was released today. Sterling Shepard is available right now. You know, a guy I keep talking about, I'll keep bringing up, Hunter Renfrow is out there. Yeah, I mean, you go get Randall Cobb or Lynn Bowden Jr. if you're really feeling frisky. You know, Corey Davis is out there. Remember, he's a few years removed from signing for all that money with the Jets, which we all knew was a bad deal when it went down. Depending on where Michael Thomas and his body is at, Michael Thomas is out there right now. You know what I mean? Personally, I'd be signing Hunter Renfrow. If he's healthy, I'd be signing Hunter Renfrow. Now, listen, I see everyone loves, you know, because I just saw his name pop up in the chat. And I've seen it on X. I haven't really seen it on YouTube very much other than like the chat here and there. But other than that, I really haven't seen it on Jarvis Landry. Listen, love Jarvis Landry when he's here. But he is no longer the same guy he used to be, and he was never even explosive to begin with. Remember how frustrating it would be that Jarvis Landry would never finish off drives with touchdowns? You remember? You remember how frustrating that was? Dog, this isn't 3 or 4 years ago. What are we saying? Now we're just trying to like live off nostalgia by bringing back Jarvis Landry. I'd rather bring in Hunter Renfrow. That's what I would say. I would rather bring in Hunter Renfrow. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Hell, if he's healthy, I'd bring in Michael Thomas over Jarvis Landry right now. That's just me personally. But, you know, I don't think they're going to make a move for like a Tim Patrick because I think the Broncos want to trade him right now. They did bring in Russell Gage, so that's an interesting one. They brought him in during the offseason, so he's now been released today. So there are options out there for the Miami Dolphins. But there's no one that moves. I think the reason why I like Hunter Renfrow too is it gives you another slot option. Now I know you can rotate Tyreek and of course Jalen Waddle into the slot, but it gives you another primary slot option behind Malik Washington, right? Because River Craycraft's a guy who can work out the slot or off the boundary too, but it gives you another good slot option with Hunter Renfrow. You know, that's where I've been. And if you want to use them off the boundary, I mean, you use your motions. You can scheme them open and scheme them with free releases, right? So, you know, I would be very, very interested in Hunter Renfrow if he's down. You know, now I know because I see it in the chat. John Michie the third, right? There are teams that are inquiring about his availability right now. I know the Ravens, the Saints, they're rumored to. The Falcons are rumored to. The Steelers, you know what I mean? I think that's going to be a trade. Now, is it going to be a mid-round or a late-round trade? I don't know, but hey, if he's healthy, that's interesting. That's an interesting developmental piece. That's an interesting development. I wouldn't be mad at John Michie. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be mad at all. But, you know, and hey, you know why I wouldn't be mad? You know what? You know, that man, you know, he has some, what is he? I think he's Taiwanese Canadian. Now, he sat out his rookie season because he had a form of leukemia, right? He lived in Brampton, Ontario, which is like 40 minutes from me. So, and then he moved to the U.S. for high school or whatever. Obviously, he was a stud in 2020 and 2021. 2021 being his best year at Alabama. Right, he got drafted in the second round, and then obviously he had to sit out his, his first year. Now, last year he didn't really do much. He was in 16 games. He only had 16 receptions for 158 yards. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I would be very weary of having to trade something for John Mechie, though. What would I pay Hunter Renfrow? The league minimum, because it doesn't seem like a lot of teams are calling right now. You can get the vet minimum, baby. That's what you can get. That's what I'm giving you. The vet minimum. All right. So, but I mean, I'm down for a guy like that. But when you talk about, like I talked about all the needs right now, right? I've still talked about this. You know, backup center. If Brian Allen is around, or Scott Quisenberry, who worked out, I would look into those, right? I think I think those would be decent guys. Now, like in backups, not guys you got to lean on for a multitude of games, right? At guard, I mean, we've talked about this. They brought in Phil Haynes, you know, Hala Vaitai is there, Mark Lewinsky. You know, there's options if they want it, but it doesn't seem like they're bringing in a guard. It seems like they're happy with what they have. I'm just going to be honest. Now, if they want to bring in an edge rusher, there are some interesting options right now, right? And again, I'm talking to these guys and I'm saying vet minimum. Like, I'm not paying any of these guys anything that moves the needle by any stretch of the imagination. All right? But a guy like Yannick Ngakoue is a free agent right now. If you want to get another edge player to add to that room of veteran, that's an option. Right? That is legitimately an option. Now, Lawrence Guy is still out there, Linval Joseph. If you're looking to add a defensive lineman, an end, Brian Monet, they worked him out. They worked out Tyler Shelvin. So there are defensive line options out there as well. In terms of linebackers, I don't know where Quan Alexander's health is. He's still out there. Shaq Leonard's out there. Zach Cunningham. So there are like linebacker options out there too, if you want to add another interior linebacker. So, I mean, we'll see. But they got needs with cut day looming. That's for sure. There ain't no single solitary doubt about it. All right. And let's get some clarification here for you guys. All right. Before we get into all the quarterback stuff today too. Because I know someone asked me last show. Here, I got some clarification for you guys from today, actually. NFLPA vetoes emergency third quarterback rule change. The NFLPA nixed a league-wide approved rule allowing an emergency third quarterback to come from the practice squad with unlimited call-ups. Teams were informed that the Players Association vetoed the revised emergency third quarterback rule that would have allowed teams to elevate a bona fide quarterback from the practice squad on a limited amount of times. NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero reported Monday per source informed of the situation. The rule reverts to the 2023 parameters, which state that an emergency third quarterback must be on the 53-man roster or as one of two standard elevations per week. An elevated quarterback would have to be active for the game rather than in the emergency role. A player can be activated 3 times per season. In March, the NFL announced that as part of its approved bylaws, it approved a rule to expand the standard elevation rules to permit teams to elevate a bona fide quarterback in a limited number of times from the practice squad to be the emergency quarterback. The NFLPA viewed the rule as sort of legal stashing per Pelissero. With the NFLPA rejecting the rule, certain clubs could elect to keep an additional quarterback on their initial 53-man rosters as we hit cutdown day. Clubs must reduce their rosters to 53 by Tuesday, tomorrow at 4 p.m., and we'll be live after that. So there you go. So there's your clarification. So what does that tell you? Okay, if your emergency quarterback is not on the 53-man roster and he is on the practice squad, you do not get an unlimited number of call-ups. All right? That it's not working like that. So now, what does that mean? Your quarterback on your practice squad can be elevated and activated 3 times, and then you have to sign him to your roster. So your emergency third quarterback must either be on the 53-man roster or he can be one of the 2 elevations per week. And, and you'd have to be active for the game. You're not just in the emergency role. And again, you can be activated 3 times per season. So there is some clarity right there for you. And they still told Mike White to kick rocks and get out of here. I'm just saying. I am just saying. Makes you doesn't make you wonder what they really think of that guy, huh? They must not be high of him. They sent him packing. Oh my God. You don't need 3 quarterbacks on the roster. Just get a developmental guy or whatever on the practice squad. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. Anyways. So, because, like I've said before, if Tua goes down, well, guess what? Here's the reality situation. Sure, Skylar can start for a game or two, but if we have a winning record and we're on pace and Tua's going to be out for like a multitude of weeks, you really think they're going to hinder that record on Skylar Thompson? I don't think so. They'll go out and they'll try. That's when they'll add a guy like a Ryan Tannehill or something like that. But anyways, all right. Let's get into a bunch of stuff today. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into what McDaniel said. We're going to get into what Tua said. And then we're going to get further into their search for a backup quarterback. Then we're going to get into, it's behind a paywall, the Athletic, they released their NFL quarterback tiers for 2024. So we'll get into that. So let's start off with Mike McDaniel because he discussed the third quarterback role and everything today, plus a few other things. So let's get into it.
Is anybody going to stay on PUP or go to injured reserve that you can tell us right now?
Okay, so, all right. I feel like roster Chris Kringle right here. There's Isaiah Wynn, Cam Good.
So there you go.
And Bradley Chubb will start on PUP.
I told you Isaiah Wynn was. I had him on my roster because he's going on PUP.
TBD.
So that's on OBJ.
Yeah. Right?
To be determined if he's going
good,
on
right?
PUP.
All right.
Assume you'll want a third arm now. The person serving in the quarterback 3 role behind Skylar Thompson as solidified quarterback 2.
Yeah, I would imagine, Chris Greer and the boys are, there's a lot of things that go on in the next 24 hours in particular. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was a third quarterback, whether what type of roster spot that is. That's another TBD.
What are you looking for?
I think for it's ironically that's a question that I haven't really answered, but it's I do have an answer for that, and I think one thing that for quarterbacks that's important to the way we play is their accuracy and ball placement for sure. There's a command of a huddle that your teammates have to believe that you're the guy that can facilitate the offense and orchestrate it and make the decisions necessary for the team to be successful. And then one finer layer that I'm looking for is mechanically is a quarterback able to do it. There's a specific ability to be able to throw, with a base and be able to throw in a phone booth that is a skill that not everybody has, and you have to be adept at that in the National Football League because of the pass rush, as well as really hone in on quarterbacks that there's a skill to throw a ball to someone. And then how accurate can you be? And then another level is, can you look at defenders and see defenders and still throw to moving targets? So do you have to see only your offensive player to make a throw, or can you see the defense?
Talking about anticipation.
For reasons of throwing into windows, anticipation, and then as well as
processing. Talking about processing and anticipation. Yeah.
Boom. I was fired up, man. I was like, finally.
For a veteran as a third or a young guy, or is it all individually based?
So would you prevent?
I think it's.
Ooh.
I understand the value in all quarterbacks. I think our two particular quarterbacks we have on the roster allow us to be open-minded and not stringent, just because I do think the maturation at the quarterback position, both those guys have had to go through that in their own orchestration. Now Skylar having a lot less game experience. There's always a value in experience, but I don't think in this particular room we have to stick to we have to have an experienced guy. If there's some young player with talent that
there you go.
we feel good about where his game's at now and see a high ceiling, we could go
That sounds like a
direction as
practice
well.
squad guy.
I think you do have to adjust your room to fit the needs of the room and the needs of the team, and that's case by case. And I think this particular quarterback room, we can go with a young guy, an old guy, just a good guy.
What is your level of confidence that Brewer is going to be available week 1?
So here we go.
Ooh, man.
What's your level of confidence
Level
that
of
Brewer will be
confidence. I'm a
available?
very confident person. However, I'm also a very principled person. And pretty much I exhaust everybody in my life, including you guys, with my principles. So you say that, and I'm confident person, and I'm very confident in Brewer in general. However, I do not want to make players worse. And if they think that I'm expecting them to be ready for anything, I run the risk of them wishing it into existence, and then hindsight is 20/20, and then something happens. So, regardless of my level of confidence in Brewer and what I literally am not, I'm not worried about things if we worry about one day at a time, and if that puts him, ready for week 1. Awesome. If that's week 2, sweet. We do have
No one's saying
team
sweet,
for a
brother.
reason, and
Liam
you have
Eichenberg's
to
waiting in the
adjust, and
wings.
You have to learn how to play to your strengths, and when people are out of your lineup, you adjust how you play. But that's the art of football teams and coaching and roster building and all that. So, I'm very happy with where he's at, and since my last update, I would be more happy because there's been more individual days stacked with no regression and continued progression.
Mike, do you have any kind of update on Brandon Peely related to his injury?
He's probably gonna be working through a little discomfort today, but he should be fine. And out there sweating right next to
So
him.
there you go. Brandon Peely's good.
With Odell Beckham, obviously Tua expressed concern that he had not thrown around to him. Odell's a veteran, so he's been in multiple offenses, one similar to yours. Where do you feel he would be inserted into the offense in week 1 without ever practicing? Understanding wise.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a scenario where he's going to, just jump out there with a cape on without practicing at all. I think for me, it's like every other player. You make sure that they progress, and you get them back on the field as fast as their body allows them to, and then you allow the comfort level of the players to dictate when he plays. So, are we gonna play football with Tua and Odell being uncomfortable with their connectivity in a real game? Absolutely not. So the measures that we'll take, we're trying to make sure that when he's on the field, that he's done absolutely everything to minimize how long it takes for him to be live action. So it's just step by step, and you can rest assured there won't be discomfort in Miami Gardens when we're playing in the stadium at Hard Rock or anywhere else.
Listen, I think Odell Beckham plays week 1. Listen how certain he was about other guys going on to IR. On a PUP, right? Right? Not just Cam Goodwin and Bradley Chubb, because we expected that from their injuries last year, but Isaiah Wynn. They know for sure Isaiah Wynn's going on PUP. Like, they know for sure. And, you know, he had a setback in his rehab. I had my latest update for all of you guys. I discussed Isaiah Wynn for channel members and Patreons. And I discussed the Isaiah Wynn situation and what I'm hearing. Like, he's certain. And that's a timeline that's very similar to this whole OBJ thing in terms of Isaiah Wynn hasn't participated in any OTAs. Isaiah Wynn hasn't participated in training camp or preseason, blah, 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 just like OBJ. But they know for sure Isaiah Wynn's going on PUP. They can't tell all y'all for sure that OBJ's going on to PUP. Like, I think if this was seriously, hey, you know, he ain't going to be ready, I think he would have told you. Like, he tells them more information to acquire. Brother, how much more information do you need? Right? We're what? 2 weeks away from football here? What more? You've had him in the building for months upon months. I think OBJ is going to be good to go. I'm telling you right now, I think he's going to be good to go. Now, with what he said about quarterback, it doesn't matter whether they're old, young. It sounded like, if you look at what he was describing when we just played that clip, Mike McDaniel, he was describing adding a young developmental guy. That's the feeling I've got. And I've already talked about this. Listen, if Davis Mills gets cut in Houston, I'm all over that. I'm all over that. If Case Keenum wins that backup job and Davis Mills doesn't get rostered, he gets released or whatever, I'm all over that. All over that. He's going into his second year in an offshoot of this offense. He'd be perfect. Now, I know everyone's talked about Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I mean, DTR. I mean, I'm fine. Cool. I mean, whatever. It's a young developmental guy. That's it, right? Only his second year in the league. So, you know, there are options, because when you go to the older options, they're not great. You know, like, you're not going to bring in a Ryan Tannehill to sit on the bench. The only way you bring in a Ryan Tannehill is if, knock on wood, Tua goes down. Even still, I don't know how well he would operate this offense. He's not exactly a high-level processor and anticipatory thrower. A lot of the things you need to be in this offense aren't his strengths. You know, and AJ McCarron, why bother? You're not winning. I mean, you know, AJ McCarron on the practice squad, why bother, right? You might as well just go nab him if something happens. To Thompson. Kellen Mond, I mean, he's been out of the league. I mean, we know he's not really that great, right? So, yeah, I remember how many rookie cards was coming up out of him. It was crazy. You know what I mean? But, like, you know, it's an interesting one. What if Bailey Zappi gets cut? And you can slide him to the practice squad. A guy who has legitimate NFL experience, slide him to the practice squad. You know, Malik Willis just got traded to Green Bay. Does this mean it's over for Sean Clifford, who they just drafted? That would be interesting. He's a young guy where you can continue to develop. I'm not too high on him. A guy who I would really like if he got cut is what's going to, you know, we talk about DTR, but what if Jameis Winston or Tyler Huntley are the odd men out over in Cleveland? Tyler Huntley, to me, would be very intriguing as a backup option. Tyler Huntley would be very intriguing to me as a backup option. Guy who can make plays with his legs. He's got some legitimate wins under his belt. Remember, he made the Pro Bowl as an alternate in 2022. Only had 4 starts for the Ravens. He's only 26 as well. I mean, there are going to be options. Bailey, like I said, Bailey Zappi is potentially going to get cut. Who's going to get cut in Houston? You know what I mean? There is a lot of interesting stuff. when you look at the quarterbacks and who is going to be there. You know, DTR we've talked about, Bailey Zappi we've talked about, Tyler Huntley, Davis Mills. Hell, I'd be interested in a guy if he's willing to take the practice squad money. I'd be interested in Case Keenum if he loses to Davis Mills. I've already talked about this. So, I mean, you know, what's going to happen in Denver? Right? Is Zach Wilson going to get cut? That's interesting. You know what I mean? Is Zach Wilson going to get cut? Bring him on as the practice squad. Because Jarrett Stidham's probably going to win the number 2 there, right? So there's going to be a lot of options. We got to wait for the names to start dropping. I'm going to tell you this much, man. Spencer Rattler, he's going to win that job, and he's going to win that job. He's going to win that job by the end of the season in New Orleans. You know, now, does that mean Jake Haener gets cut, who got drafted last year, and you got yet another young guy hitting the open market that you can slide to the practice squad in Jake Haener? You know, now I know everyone, like, I don't think I think Zappi gets cut. I don't think Joe Milton gets cut in New England, for anyone is wondering, right? But again, we're looking at young developmental guys that can slide, because that seemed like what he was talking about. Now, they could very well bring back Mike White, and this could be discussion for you know, that we're just wasting breath on. Spencer Rattler's not trash. Go watch his throw from the weekend. The problem with Spencer Rattler has never been ability. It's always been up here with him. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of Dobbs or Brandon Allen and battling. I'm not a fan. So there are options, you know, Huntley and DTR, whoever loses in Cleveland, Davis Mills and Case Keenum in Houston, whoever loses that is interesting. Bailey Zappi, if you want to get a young guy with experience that you can try and slide onto the practice squad. You know, like you said, Zach Wilson, Jarrett Stidham, what if one of those guys loses? You know, you can even go for Chicago. What's going to happen with Tyson Bagent? Right? What's going to happen with Tyson Bagent in Chicago? So there's a lot of good options, man. Lot of good options if you want to get a young guy that you can throw on the practice squad and develop. All right, let's get further into, before we get into what Tua said, let's get into more into the quarterback situation. I mean, I'd take Kyle Trask as a backup, but I don't think they're going to release him in Tampa. What to know about number 3 quarterbacks and when they're allowed to play, and here's some Dolphins notes. Coach Mike McDaniel said he wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins add a 3rd quarterback, but he isn't sure if that player will be on the 53-man roster or signed to the practice squad instead. We'll see who we end up grabbing if we don't get Mike White back, Tagovailoa said Monday. Here's what to know about rules regarding regular season availability of 3rd quarterbacks. Quarterbacks on the practice squad are not eligible to come into a game unless that quarterback has been elevated for that specific game before the game. Every NFL player on a practice squad can be elevated no more than 3 times in a season, and that applies to quarterbacks. So if a team with only 2 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster loses both of those quarterbacks to injury during the game, the practice squad QB cannot enter the game unless he happens to have been elevated for that game. Under the inactive emergency 3rd quarterback rule, teams carrying 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster don't need to make the 3rd quarterback active for the game to preserve his chance of playing in a game. There's a specific circumstance where a 3rd quarterback on the 53 roster can be inactive for the game and yet still enter the game if the other 2 quarterbacks are injured or ejected and cannot return. An emergency 3rd quarterback cannot enter a game because one of the other 2 quarterbacks is benched. Once the inactive 3rd quarterback enters the game, the other 2 quarterbacks cannot return to the game. Teams must have 2 bona fide quarterbacks on the active game day list in order to designate an emergency 3rd quarterback. So a team cannot keep 1 quarterback on the 53-man roster, but then use an emergency 3rd quarterback if the starter goes down. So there you go. All right. With the Dolphins shorthanded at wide receiver, there could be even more targets for running backs early in the season. Last season, Mostert had 25 receptions for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. Achane had 27 receptions for 197 yards and 3 touchdowns. Achane often lined up at receiver. Braxton Berrios is the team's only fully healthy receiver with NFL experience, but Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are expected to be ready for the opener against Jacksonville at Hard Rock. Alec Ingold has said the Dolphins are pushing limits of the offense in year 3 under Mike McDaniel. But what does that mean? That means you're going to be doing things that are unconventional. We're doing motions that haven't been done before. During a joint practice with Tampa, Buccaneers linebacker LaVonte David brought up our motions, Mostert said. It left a visual that was hard for him to paint that picture of where everyone was going to be at. We want the defense to be confused and not understanding this offense, trying to be unconventional, trying to do something different that's unique and different. How will the Dolphins handle nose tackle with Benito Jones still injured? I definitely think Calais can play nose, Zach Seiler said when asked specifically about Calais Campbell. A guy like Peely has done an amazing job in camp growing his game to the next level. Deshaun Hand, I play a ton of nose last year as well. Benito's a great player, but we can make it work while he's sidelined. The Dolphins, as of midday Monday, had 85 remaining players under contract that will either make the 53-man roster, be cut, be placed on injured reserve, or be traded. That number does not include Bradley Chubb, Cam Good, and Isaiah Wynn, who are headed to the reserve physically unable to perform list, which sidelines them for at least the first 4 games. That 85 does include receiver OBJ, whose status for the start of the season is undetermined according to McDaniel. It's a sad day, but also a good day because you get to start off the season, Mostert said, of impending cuts around the league. One of the worst days in football, Zach Seiler said. Guys, over 580 of you in the room. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you are new. So there you go. You got a full rundown of what the third quarterback can do, how it's going to be handled, etc., etc. Again, the options we've talked about. In Cleveland, DTR or Tyler Huntley are options if one of those guys get cut. Over in Houston, Davis Mills and Case Keenum are options if one of those guys get cut. Bailey Zappi, if you're looking for a guy to stash on the practice squad who's young with experience, he is another option. Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson, who's going to lose that battle in Denver, and are they going to keep 3? One of those guys, if you want to stash them on the practice squad, makes sense. So there are tons of options. Yeah, I don't think Jaren Hall goes for Minnesota. I think they're going to, like another guy we talked about from Chicago. What if Tyson Bagent gets cut? Right? I know people in the chat were talking about Brett Ripon, Cooper Rush. There are going to be options available. We just got to wait and see what cuts happen. And then I'm not, Ryan Tannehill, he's on the open market right now. But that's not a guy you're adding as a number 3. Like, if you add Ryan Tannehill, it automatically bumps Skylar Thompson down to 3. And I don't think that's what they're trying to do. So I think they're trying to get a young guy and put him there. Now, another name I see in the chat, and I'm going to be honest with you, right? Like, because I know someone suggested Brandon Allen. I'm not a huge fan of Joshua Dobbs, but Joshua Dobbs has won football games. Joshua Dobbs has done things, right? But again, he's going to be 30. Does that bump Skylar down to number 3? So, but again, Joshua Dobbs is an interesting one. But I think a young guy makes sense here. I really do. I really, really do. All right. So, but there's going to be options. That market is going to expand tomorrow. So, and like we said, does Jake Haener get cut? Right? Because Spencer Rattler's moving up that depth chart for Derek Carr's job. They got Taysom Hill. Does a guy like Jake Haener get cut? Does a guy like Sean Clifford get cut in Green Bay now because they just acquired Malik Willis? Trey Lance. I do not want Trey Lance after his 5 interception performance. I'm sorry. That's a pass for me. Talia Tagovailoa, that's an interesting option if you're just looking for someone to stash. Yeah, Case Keenum does fit us perfectly. For real. He does. I would agree with that. You know? I think him or Davis. I think Davis Mills. If you could give me anyone that could possibly be cut, Davis Mills would be so perfect. You know? So perfect. So, anyways, continuing on here, let's get into what Tua said. Because Tua went in front of the media today, and he was asked about Flores, and he said something very interesting about the offensive line. So let's get into that whole situation. Here's what Tua said today.
I don't think anyone here thought we'd be relitigating 2021 and 2022 this summer.
Yeah.
Have you heard from Brian Flores in the last week?
I haven't heard from him.
Did you see his comments publicly?
I haven't seen his comments publicly.
Is there anything more that you'd like to add in the conversation to that?
There's nothing more I'd like to add to that.
Can I just ask you one thing that did occur to me?
Yeah.
And that is, you mentioned in your comments to Dan how he was highly critical of you through that process.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there was, I think, somewhat of a surprise that he made the change when he did. Why do you think that change to bench Brian and insert you happened if he was so down on you?
It's a great question. I'm not going to answer that truthfully right now, but I think I know why, but I won't speculate or give anyone any speculations on that.
Is he implying Flores was trying to turn everyone against him?
To think that, but other than that, I think that'll just stay here with the organization. No.
Do you think it's more important for a quarterback to have support of his head coach than maybe possibly any other position?
Yeah, 100%. This is a quarterback-driven league. I 100% think that. Without a good team, without a good quarterback, I don't think you can do much in this league. Sure, you can have good defense. There's really good offenses in this league. You got to put up points, and you got to find ways to do that. So, I definitely believe that for sure.
Speaking of receivers, I don't know. I've been here 16 years. I don't know if I've ever seen a receiver unit so decimated by injuries as this year. How concerning is that for you and Odell Beckham? Mike said that there's a possibility that he might not begin the year on the PUP and might begin it on the active.
Mm-hmm.
How important is you and Odell developing chemistry?
That's very important. For me, it's very important. Off the field, I've been able to hang out with him a good amount of times. Cool dude, 100%. But does that translate does our relationship translate on the field? Like, I couldn't tell you because I haven't gotten reps with him, and that's just the honest truth. Now, if O isn't on the PUP list, he clears everything and we're able to get out there, I mean, that's one of the first things that I, want to do. Routes on air, want to make sure I get as many reps with him. Okay, he's going to go in for this rep. Let's make sure that this guy's going to get the ball. Like, make sure the coverage isn't whatever. Like, I want to make sure that, the timing is good. So I want to make sure that that's all good and whatnot. And, speaking to your question prior to that, that's just part of the game. Guys get injured and whatnot, and whoever we're dealt with to go and play with out there, that's who we're dealt with to play with. So, I've had as good of receivers and as fun of receivers, to have with Tyreek and Waddle. And I've also had guys who didn't have speed like that, playing my first 2 years in the league. So, we got to go out there and we just got to find a way to make that work.
So what's your confidence level on the offensive line in front of you, specifically the interior of the line blocking for you?
Well, brother, I get the ball out fast, so I'm confident with anybody we got up there. I'll tell you that. I'm confident with anybody we get out there. So,
just to follow up quick, Barry. I mean, even dating like back to high school.
Oh,
is this
boy.
the first time you've ever been in the same system 3 years in a row?
Yeah, 3 years in a row. Yeah, I think so.
Let's say like this kind of rare air for you then, huh?
Yeah, Yeah, this really rare for sure.
We've seen improvements from a lot of guys on offense. Julian Hill, River before he got hurt. Who
Yeah.
comes to your mind first if I ask you most improved players offensively on this team?
Most improved players offensively. I would say from my first year with Mike, I would say River. I would just the amount of things he's had to go through throughout, his football career, and him scoring that touchdown 2 weeks ago or last week. That was I don't know, it's almost bittersweet, but it's almost like he can't catch a break. Every time it starts to get really good for my man, it just gets tough. But yeah, I would say he's probably been the most improved in my opinion in camp this year until he got hurt. Defense, most improved. Most improved. I'm gonna say Chop. I think Chop has grown a lot from the first time he's gotten here. Earlier throughout OTAs, although I was only here, for a certain amount of time in OTAs, but I think he's done really good, and he's earned a lot of respect from the guys in the locker room, from a lot of veterans. So I'll be curious to see what he does to help us, to win some games this year.
So there you go. Directly from the horse's mouth right there for you. All right. Chop Robinson and River Craycraft are the two he said have been most improved. Now I got a question in the chat. Where is Sam Hartman? He's in Washington. He's another option. I liked him coming out of college. Jeff Driscoll's the third one option there, and he's the fourth option. So Sam Hartman's another one that could be available. But I think what's very interesting about what Tua said is he was asked, what's your confidence level in the offensive line in front of you, specifically the interior of the line blocking for you? And his quote was, well, brother, I get the ball out fast. I'm confident with anybody we've got up there. I'll tell you that. I'm confident with anybody we got up there. So Tua Tagovailoa fully confident in his abilities, no matter who is blocking for him, it sounds like. All right? That's what it sounds like. No, I wouldn't trade for Joe Milton. If Chris Paul gets cut, would at least sign him to the practice squad. CP3 is a little old, no? And shout out to James Steele for the All-Pro, joining the All-Pro. So, Tua Tagovailoa, thank God we can move on from Brian Flores, but then he doesn't really, he basically says, hey, I'm quick enough as a processor and throwing the football that I can basically mask. That's basically what he's saying. I can mask what's in front of me. So it don't matter who it is. I'm confident in myself and my ability to get the ball off, quick enough for that not to be an issue. Man, I wish he could show. I wish we gave him more confidence in that offensive line. I really do. I really, really do. I'm not gonna lie. All right. Continuing on here, The Athletic just dropped their yearly article tiering all the quarterbacks in the NFL. It's behind a paywall, but I got you. Don't worry. All right. So here we go. The top tier is always exclusive territory when 50 NFL coaches and executives have their say in quarterback tiers each summer. That exclusivity has reached another level this year, led by the incomparable Patrick Mahomes. Only 3 players achieved tier 1 status when balloting for the 11th annual survey was finished. That's the lowest number since 2016. So here we go. These are the biggest risers and fallers. So you see Tua's right here. He moved up 3 spots. Brock Purdy moved up 13. Jordan Love moved up 13 spots. That's crazy. Baker Mayfield moved up 8. Matt Stafford moved up 6. So here we go. Let's start off. Here's tier 1. All right. A tier 1 quarterback can carry his team each week. The team wins because of him. He expertly handles pure passing situations. So Mahomes is 1. Burrow is number 2, who didn't play last year and has become more injury prone than Tua Tagovailoa. and hey, I'm a Burrow fan. I always talk about this. Josh Allen is number 3. So they only have 3 quarterbacks in tier 1, Mahomes, Burrow, and Josh Allen. In tier 2, a tier 2 quarterback can carry his team sometimes, but not as consistently. He can handle pure passing situations in doses and or possesses other dimensions that are special enough to elevate him above tier 3. He has a hole or two in his game. Lamar Jackson at 4. Matthew Stafford and Justin Herbert at 5. Again, Justin Herbert has a worse record than Tua Tagovailoa. Justin Herbert blew a 23-point lead in the playoffs. So we're talking about guys that can carry his teams at some time but not consistently. I would agree, but what are we talking about? Aaron Rodgers at 7. CJ Stroud after 1 year at 8. Dak Prescott at 9. Who Tua beat him on a clinch and get in for both teams on Christmas. Jared Goff at 10. Jalen Hurts at 11. Purdy at 12. Way too low for Purdy. Way too low for Purdy. Kirk Cousins at 13. And Jordan Love at 14. And then leading tier 3. A tier 3 quarterback is a legitimate starter, but he needs a heavier running game and or defensive component to win. A lower volume drop back passing offense suits him best. That's why Tua throws 30 to 40 times a game. But anyways. And here's what they said. So he's moved up from tier 4 to tier 3 right here to the top of tier 3, right? He didn't have any tier 1 votes. He had 26 tier 3 votes. He had 24 tier, so it was split. He had 24 tier 2 votes, 23 tier 3 votes. It was basically one off from a split. Tagovailoa's stock has improved each year since his 2021 tiers debut, putting him on the verge of tier 2, but the gap between his new $53.1 million salary and his tier 3 status is conspicuous. Miami has done an incredible job with Tua, giving him easy throws, giving him easy looks, catch and runs to 4-3 guys. An offensive coach with AFC East experience said, if you were sitting there in a pure pass situation, if he has to sit there and read stuff and go through his progressions, I don't have a lot of confidence in what he's going to look like. It didn't look good against the Chiefs last season, but Tagovailoa's production was sufficient for 24 voters to place him in tier 2. That's up from 7 last year. So there you go. Another good season, and he'll easily be in the tier 2 at least next year. I put him right in the middle of that tier 2 stack, a head coach said. You basically got a guy who's a perfect fit for Mike McDaniel. He's going to throw for 4,500 yards and a gazillion touchdowns, and statistically it's going to be hard to deny. But kind of like with Kyle Shanahan's quarterbacks, what are you going to do when it's the playoffs against the Chiefs and it's a 2-minute drive and play action and all that shit ain't going to help you? Purdy passing Tagovailoa was noticeable in both both play in a highly acclaimed schemes on teams with elite offensive weaponry. Tua does a great job anticipating, another head coach said. I don't see him make it right when it's not right. Purdy does. There is a free hitter on the edge. Purdy can spin out, keep his eyes downfield. I don't see Tua having that creativity or raw athleticism to do that. And that's why Tua Tagovailoa is working his butt off to change that narrative. But the man just led the league in passing. You're going to put him at 15. You're going to put Jordan Love, who has a solid 8 games ahead of him. Kirk Cousins, who's been falling off. If you're going to put Dak Prescott at 9, how is Tua not going to be at 10 or 8? They're basically, how many people have talked about this? CJ Stroud debuts in the top 8. They're not even afraid. Aaron Rodgers at 7. And, last year he was hurt. The year before that, Tua outplayed him until he got concussed in that Green Bay game. I don't know, man. Tua, like I said, Tua's a top 8 in the game, and I think that's kind of ridiculous, to be honest with you. That's low. It's not a fluke, and you can't be a jabroni in a tier 3 who just led the league in passing. Joe Burrow is number 2 on your list, and he's been throwing to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Now he's got Mike Gesicki this year. Talk about a defense. In tier 2, in tier 3, it says you need a defensive component to win, right? Well, what the hell did Joe Burrow need on his Super Bowl run? That defense was lights out that year. So there's a lot of inaccuracies with this. Anyways, over 600 of you watching right now, do me a favor, smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new Appreciate all of you for coming through on this episode. Remember, this episode, like I told you before, man, it is sponsored, of course, by BetUS. Go over to BetUS. Go use their website. It's really easy to do. All you do is, like, if you're going to think the Ravens going to win, you click on the Ravens on your point spread. Your bet slip pops up on the right side. It's easy peasy. Go support the channel. Go show some love to BetUS. 125% deposit match on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 and payouts within 24 hours. Just gamble responsibly. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring the show, and shout out to all of you for coming through. Smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, fins up all day, every day. Appreciate all of you.